Hi guys, time for another film review. I'm doing really well, aren't I? I've managed to do 2 film reviews in a row, but this is one that I have been excited about for months and I finally got to see it the other night. It was La La Land. Once again, like my Lion review, if you watched that, which I posted before this is a spoiler-filled review. I'm going to be talking about what happens in the film in depth, so if you haven't seen it, do not watch this review. I'm going to be talking about exactly what happens and I don't want to ruin it for you, so only watch this if you've seen the film or if you have no intentions of going to see the film, which you shouldn't have because it's wonderful. La La Land is a musical film starring Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. It is directed by Damien Chazelle and it is everything that I hoped that it would be. I remember when I first saw a sort of very early clip or trailer from the film months and months ago, getting so excited because not only do I absolutely love the musical genre, but I love Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone and I love them paired together, so I instantly knew that this was going to be something that was going to be up my street. And as the months went on and the hype started to grow and grow, and of course with a couple of weeks ago the film breaking the record of the number of Golden Globes won, I started to worry that I might have overdone the hype for myself and it might end up letting me down. And it didn't. It totally held up to what I wanted this film to be, which was a modern version of a musical with that very nostalgic throwback feel that fit so nicely into our kind of like contemporary culture, but with so many lovely references and styled in such a similar way to musicals from long ago. And it was just beautiful. So, quick overview. The film tells the story of Mia and Seb, who are both sort of struggling artists living in LA. They meet early in the film and have an instant spark and connection. This, I think, is helped hugely by the chemistry between Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone and the fact that they've worked together so many times before. I think they've got such a nice, natural, organic chemistry that instantly captures you and you instantly go, ooh, I want to see more of these people interacting. So from the word go, that was excellent. Mia is an aspiring actress and Seb is a jazz pianist. He absolutely loves jazz and hates the fact that he feels like no one appreciates jazz anymore and that it's a dying art. And when they meet and they sort of fall in love, they start finding ways to encourage each other to try different routes to try to get to the careers that they want. Both of them have been finding that they're not really getting anywhere. He has been stuck playing Christmas tunes in a bar that he doesn't want to be in, which he's then fired from because he can't help but play the music that speaks to his heart, which is the jazz music. And Mia has been to audition after audition after audition and is getting nowhere and is stuck working in a coffee shop on the Warner Brothers lot. Once they fall for each other, after a lot of beautiful sequences of them sort of falling in love, and the sequence in the sort of observatory where they're up in the stars is one of the most beautiful things that I've seen on screen in a very long time. But moving past that, once they've sort of fallen for each other and they start finding these ways to encourage each other, Mia decides to write her own one-woman show and she has to pay to have it put on, but she decides it's one of the only ways she can take control of her own career. And Seb reluctantly joins a band with an old friend who he didn't really want to work with, but he overhears Mia talking to her mum about the fact that he's not really got a steady job, but don't worry, he'll get one at some point. And he feels that for her, he wants to try and do the right thing, so he accepts this job. And this is where it all starts to kind of get sad, but horribly realistic. At this point, Seb ends up having to go on tour with the band, so they stop seeing as much of each other. Mia, meanwhile, is writing her one-woman show and sending it out to places to have it performed in, and they don't get to interact as much, they don't get to see each other. We see her phoning him and saying, I haven't really heard from you in a while, and although the band isn't really where he wants to be, you can see him sort of getting swept up in this, well, it's something and I'm getting somewhere with it and I'm getting to play music. It might not necessarily be the music that I want to be playing, but I'm getting to do it, and how that starts to cause friction within the relationship. There's an incredible scene where they have a fight over dinner about the fact that he took this job saying that it was for her and she's saying that she never wanted him to and that it's distracting him from his dream, and it's heartbreaking, but it's beautifully done. It's also, I think, one of the most realistic representations of a relationship breakdown that we've seen in a film for a really long time. It's one of these situations where eventually, when Mia's been spotted by this agent who wants to sign her up for this massive movie deal, and Seb's, working away in the band, they realise that if they want to move forward in their respective careers, it means that they're probably not going to see each other anymore. And I think it's probably reflective of what happens in a lot of these relationships with creative people who are working in these industries, is finding the time to be around each other is really difficult, and you'll be on different sides of the country or in different countries for months at a time, and how do you cope with that? So I loved the way that this film explored the romantic relationship between the two, and although I was really heartbroken that they didn't get together again at the end, I understand why they didn't. I understand what they were doing with that. I understand how they were making it a reflection probably of what happens quite often in that industry, where two people love each other, and it's not that they don't love each other and they don't want to be together, but logically and in terms of where they are, it's just not going to work. So that was heartbreaking, but I get why they did it. The one small thing that I had about the film that Emma and I both said once we left was that I felt that 5 years later at the end, for her to be a world-dominating movie star to the point that like her face is on billboards all around LA, and be married and have a toddler, I felt like 5 years was quite a short period of time for that to all have happened in. I think it might have been slightly more believable if it had been closer to 10 years, but anyway, that's me nitpicking. I really loved the songs. The songs are obviously such a massive, massive part of this film, and I thought that they worked beautifully. I really enjoyed Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling's voices. I was watching Dodie's review of this, Dodie Clark, I'll link it in the description box down below because she adores this film. What she was talking about was the fact that obviously they don't have these big Broadway voices, but the songs were sort of worked to really suit them, and they just were fantastic, and I'm definitely going to download the soundtrack. There's so many little moments in this film that are just so beautiful, and I felt like I spent the first sort of half of it just smiling, like grinning from ear to ear, and then the second half being like, oh, I'm really sad. But by the end of it, I felt so uplifted because I think it's a beautiful exploration of trying to work in a creative industry and trying to make it in an industry that is constantly knocking you down, and how do you kind of step up and manage to keep going and have the confidence to keep pushing past the rejection. And that's lovely. And Mia's song about dreamers just, I think, will speak to anyone working in a creative industry. Both of them just played their parts to perfection, and Ryan Gosling's piano playing, can we take a minute to talk about how incredible that was? He is stupendous, and you know, all the love for Ryan Gosling, always. But yeah, I don't think there's much else that I can say about this film other than the fact that I thought that the cinematography was beautiful, the score, the soundtrack was wonderful, the performances were excellent, the costumes were stunning, all of these beautiful bright pops of colour were just so stunning to watch on screen. If you've watched this and you haven't seen it, shame on you. But if you haven't and you're thinking, I'm just going to wait until the DVD comes out, or I'm just going to like watch it online, don't. Go and see it in the cinema. This is a film that you have to see on the big screen because it's so visually stunning. The scene with the stars, as I say, when they just sort of do that like musical moment of sort of jumping up into the air and they float off into the stars, was stunning. And the final montage sequence of what their lives could have been like had they stayed together, that was one of my favourite scenes from the whole film. Purely because I'm a huge big romantic and I'm like, oh, I just want them to be back together. And so that I thought was so beautiful. It was just stunning to look at, and a lovely way of kind of giving you that closure of, yeah, this could have been, but if they had done that, Seb wouldn't have got to open his jazz club. They would have gone back to LA, turned up at that place, and it would have been someone else's, and he wouldn't have got to realise his dream. So, you know, you've got to look at it from that perspective. So yeah, I'm going to stop there before I rant on for hours and hours about how wonderful it was. If you have seen it, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of it, if there were any little hiccupy bits that you didn't enjoy, what your favourite song was, what you thought of Mia and Seb's relationship, all that stuff. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you can keep up to date with all my videos. I will speak to you again soon. Bye!